Learn English through story. The secret flame of passion. In the heart of the city of Veridia, where narrow cobblestone streets twisted like veins beneath the tapestry of elegant spires, lived a woman named Alara. She was the daughter of a wealthy merchant, a woman of grace and intellect, admired for her beauty and refinement. But beneath the layers of her well-composed exterior, Alara harbored a secretive flame of passion that smoldered quietly, hidden from the watchful eyes of the world around her. From the time she was a child, Alara had been drawn to stories of adventure, love, and rebellion. Her father's grand house was filled with books, and she devoured them all, tales of daring knights, tragic heroines, and forbidden love. But Veridia was a city of strict rules and expectations, especially for women of Alara's standing. A woman's role, she had been told over and over again, was to marry well, bear children, and manage the affairs of the household. Any deviation from this path was seen as improper, scandalous even. Alara had done her best to live within these confines. She attended the lavish balls and social gatherings, accepted the attentions of suitors, and performed her duties as a dutiful daughter. But no matter how much she tried to conform, there was a part of her that longed for something more, something beyond the gilded cages of Veridia's society. It was this longing, this secret flame, that led her to the man who would change her life forever. His name was Darian, a mysterious and charismatic artist who had recently arrived in Veridia. He was unlike any man Alara had ever met. Tall and lean, with dark, piercing eyes and a smile that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 unspoken words, Darian exuded a raw energy that both intrigued and unsettled her. He was known for his scandalous paintings, works of art that defied the conventions of Veridia's rigid society. His pieces were filled with passion and emotion, depicting scenes of wild, untamed beauty that seemed to leap off the canvas. While many whispered about the indecency of his art, others were captivated by it. It was said that to look upon one of Darian's paintings was to see into the soul of the artist himself. Alara first saw Darian's work at a private exhibition, one hosted by a friend of her father's who had a penchant for collecting controversial art. She had been hesitant to attend, knowing that her father would disapprove, but curiosity got the better of her. As she stood before one of Darian's paintings, a striking image of a woman standing on the edge of a cliff, her arms outstretched as though she were about to leap into the stormy sea below, Alara felt something stir deep inside her. It was as if the painting spoke directly to her soul, awakening desires she had long tried to suppress. "Do you like it?" Alara started, turning to see Darian himself standing beside her, his dark eyes watching her intently. His presence was magnetic, and she found herself momentarily lost for words. "It's a broken bar beautiful," she finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. Darian's smile was slow, almost predatory. "Beauty is only a small part of it. What you see here," he gestured toward the painting, "is passion, raw, untamed passion. It's something that most people are too afraid to acknowledge, let alone embrace." Alara felt her pulse quicken. There was something dangerous in his words, something that both excited and frightened her. She had always been drawn to passion in her books, but to hear someone speak of it so openly, so boldly, it was as though Darian had tapped into the very heart of her deepest desires. Over the next few weeks, Alara found herself drawn to Darian in ways she could not explain. They met often, sometimes by chance at social gatherings, other times in secret at his studio in the less reputable part of the city. Darian's world was a stark contrast to her own. His life was filled with color, chaos, and freedom, while hers was bound by rules and decorum. He spoke of art, of love, of passion as if they were the only things that truly mattered, and Alara found herself captivated by his words, by the intensity of his gaze. One evening, as they stood together in his studio, surrounded by his paintings, Darian turned to her, his voice low and intimate. "You don't belong in that world, Alara," he said, his eyes burning with intensity. "You're like a caged bird, trapped in a life that's too small for you." Alara felt her breath catch in her throat. She had never spoken of her dissatisfaction with her life, not to anyone. But somehow, Darian had seen it, had understood the longing she carried inside her. "You want more," he continued, stepping closer to her. "I can see it in your eyes. You want to feel, to truly live. You want to be free." Alara's heart raced. His words struck at the very core of her being. She did want more than the stifling confines of Veridia's society, more than the empty conversations and shallow relationships. She wanted passion, fire, the kind of love that consumed you from the inside out. But even as her heart ached for what he was offering, a part of her hesitated. She had been raised to follow the rules, to be a proper woman, and Darian was everything her father had warned her about. He was dangerous, unpredictable, a man who lived by no one's rules but his own. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I can." Darian reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. His touch was warm, comforting, but there was also a fire in it, a fire that burned with the promise of everything she had ever wanted. "You can," he said softly. "All you have to do is trust yourself. Trust what you feel." Alara closed her eyes, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the pull of the flame inside her, growing stronger, threatening to consume her. And in that moment, she made a choice. When she opened her eyes, Darian was watching her, his gaze unwavering. Without a word, she leaned in and kissed him. The kiss was like nothing she had ever experienced before. It was fierce, intense, filled with a passion that seemed to ignite the very air around them. In that moment, all of her doubts, all of her fears, melted away. All that mattered was the heat between them, the fire that burned brighter and hotter with every passing second. That night, Alara stayed with Darian, giving herself to him completely. It was a night of passion, of freedom, of everything she had ever longed for but had been too afraid to take. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. But as dawn broke and the light of day crept into the studio, reality began to seep back in. Alara lay in Darian's arms, staring up at the ceiling, her mind racing. What had she done? She had crossed a line, broken the rules of the society she had been raised in. If anyone found out, the scandal would destroy her reputation, ruin her family. She could never go back to the life she had known. And yet, even as the weight of her decision pressed down on her, there was a part of her that felt free. For so long, she had been trapped by the expectations of others, forced to suppress her own desires in favor of duty and decorum. But now, she had tasted freedom, a real freedom, and there was no turning back. Over the next few weeks, Alara and Darian continued their affair, meeting in secret, stealing moments together whenever they could. Their passion burned hotter with each encounter, consuming them both. Alara knew the risks, knew that if they were caught, it would mean the end of everything she had ever known. But she didn't care. She was in love with Darian, in love with the life he had shown her, a life filled with art, passion, and freedom. But as the days passed, Alara began to notice a change in Darian. He became distant, moody, his once warm eyes now clouded with something darker. He spoke less of passion and freedom, and more of power, of ambition. He had always been driven, but now, there was a new edge to his words, a hunger that made Alara uneasy. One evening, as they lay together in his studio, Darian turned to her, his voice quiet but intense. "I want more, Alara," he said. "I want to be remembered, to leave a legacy that will outlast us both." Alara frowned, unsure of where this was coming from. "You already have that," she said softly. "Your art, it's incredible. People talk about it all the time. You've already made your mark." Darian shook his head, a frustrated look crossing his face. "That's not enough. I want more than just praise. I want power, influence. I want people to bow before me, to fear me." Alara's heart sank. This was not the man she had fallen in love with. The Darian she knew had been passionate, yes, but not like this. This was something else, something darker. "What are you saying?" she asked, her voice trembling. Darian sat up, his eyes burning with an intensity she had never seen before. "I've been working on something that will change everything. A new piece, unlike anything I've ever done. But I need you, Alara. I need your help." Alara felt a knot of fear tighten in her chest. "What do you mean?" Darian's gaze was piercing, his voice low and dangerous. "I need you to be my muse, to give yourself completely to the work. This piece, it's going to be different. It's going to be powerful. But it requires a sacrifice." Alara's blood ran cold. "What kind of sacrifice?" Darian smiled, but it was not the warm, loving smile she had come to know. It was something darker, something that sent a shiver down her spine. "The kind that will make us immortal," he said softly. Alara stared at him, her heart pounding in her chest. She had always known that Darian was different, that he lived by his own rules. But this was something else entirely. This was madness. "I can't," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I can't do that." Darian's expression hardened. "You said you wanted more. You said you wanted to be free. This is your chance, Alara. This is our chance." Alara shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "Not like this. I can't." Darian's eyes flashed with anger. "Then you're no better than the rest of them," he spat. "You're just like the people you've spent your whole life running from, afraid, weak, trapped by your own fear." Alara felt her heart break. The man she had loved, the man who had awakened the flame inside her, was gone. In his place was someone she didn't recognize, someone consumed by ambition and desire for power. With a heavy heart, Alara stood, gathering her clothes. She couldn't stay, not anymore. She had tasted the freedom she had longed for, but she now realized that true freedom wasn't about indulging every desire, or seeking power at any cost. It was about knowing when to walk away, when to let go. As she left Darian's studio for the last time, the flame of passion that had once burned so brightly inside her flickered and dimmed. But it was not extinguished. She would carry it with her, always, a reminder of what she had learned, that passion, unchecked, could consume you, but it could also guide you to the truth. And the truth was that real freedom came from within, from knowing who you were and what you truly wanted. And so, Alara returned to her life in Viridia, changed, but stronger. She had found her passion, and in doing so, she had found herself. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.